The new generation of the NBA is officially here. Jayson Tatum, Luka Doncic, Anthony Edwards, and Tyrese Haliburton. What do they all have in common? The answer is they're all ringless. None of them have ever won an NBA Finals, and one of them is going to win an NBA Finals this year. The Timberwolves just upset the Nuggets in a series in which they went up 2-0, stealing 2 games in Denver. But after losing games 3, 4, and 5, they had their back against the wall and had to win games 6 and 7. By the way, the Nuggets were up 58-38 in game 7. It was an absolute disaster class from the Nikola Jokic-led Denver Nuggets in the second half. The Celtics have had a relatively easy path after beating the Miami Heat with no Jimmy Butler and the Cleveland Cavaliers with no Donovan Mitchell for some games. They found themselves back in the Eastern Conference Finals. No surprises there. But what has been surprising is the Indiana Pacers. After being counted out by many due to a matchup with the Milwaukee Bucks in the first round, the Pacers battled against an injured Bucks team and came out with a series victory. The Pacers then upset the Knicks in a dominant Game 7 performance to advance to the Eastern Conference Finals. The Dallas Mavericks were the 10th seed out west at the NBA trade deadline. They were fighting for a play-in spot. After acquiring PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford, they went on a push all the way up to the 5 seed. The first round, they beat a Kawhi-less Clippers team, and then they took out a young Thunder team in the second round. That sets up our conference finals matchups, which are between 4 ringless stars: Luka Doncic and Anthony Edwards out west, and Jayson Tatum versus Tyrese Haliburton out east. The days of LeBron James going to the finals every year are behind us. The days of Steph Curry dominating and going into deep playoff runs every year are behind us. And the days of Kevin Durant being someone you don't want to run into in the playoffs are behind us. The future is here, but who's going to lead the way? Real quick before we talk about some of these matchups, if you guys haven't, make sure to click the red subscribe button, because majority of you guys that watch my videos, I've seen the numbers, are actually not subscribed. We're on the road to 3K subs. Sub up, help me out. The Nuggets and Timberwolves game was crazy, I'm not gonna lie, because the Nuggets were up 58-38. They should have had this game in the bag. And it's the Nuggets. Like, they just won last year. The Nuggets are the one team that, like, when they have a crazy lead like that, like, it's probably game over. But in the third quarter and even a little bit in the fourth, the Nuggets just weren't scoring, and the Timberwolves got back to playing Timberwolves basketball, aka the #1 defense in the league. And if the Timberwolves are going to win in a game 7, especially where they came back down 20, you probably think Anthony Edwards went off. He really didn't. Like, in my opinion, he had a bad game. At halftime, he had 4 points. I believe he was 1 for 7 from the field. His final stats, he had 16 points. He was 6 for 24 from the field, 2 for 10 from 3. Just overall, not a great game from him. I'm not gonna lie. It was a pretty mid game, and I already know Timberwolves fans love to say, oh, he's getting doubled all game, so how can you expect him to have a good game? That is true. The Nuggets, and I'm sure more teams are going to throw doubles at him in the future. That happened, but we see a lot of great players, especially in the playoffs, get doubled all the time. We see it with Steph Curry pretty much every single game. That doesn't mean Steph Curry, has to get 5 points. These great players have to find a way to score through the double teams. And Anthony Edwards really didn't do that in this game, but hey, the Timberwolves left Ball Arena in Denver with a victory, and now they're moving on to play the Mavericks. So can't really say anything, except if the Mavs do throw double teams at Ant, I hope he can, find a way to score through them. And he has found some ways to score through double teams, earlier on in the series. But I'm just saying, game 7, he didn't play the best. The guy that I really want to talk about for this Timberwolves team that was absolutely clutch down the stretch is, of course, Naz Reid. In a very close game, I want to say it was like a 4-point game in the fourth quarter. He hit 2 crucial free throws and then went to the other end of the court where Karl Anthony Towns was not in this game. He was not playing most of the fourth because he had 5 fouls. So Naz was in the game. He was guarding Jokic, and he blocked Jokic on a little post hook, post fade, whatever you want to call it. It was a huge block. Then a few plays later, he ended up getting a dunk, and then the next play, he got an assist to Anthony Edwards for a 3. So in the most crucial moments of this game, Naz Reid was the Timberwolf that was stepping up big time. And I also got to give a shout out to Mike Conley, because he had a huge steal. Like, it was at the point of the game where it's like, all right, if the Nuggets score here, they can get back into it. But if the Timberwolves get a stop, and they did, Conley got a steal, which ended up leading to, I believe, an Anthony Edwards 3 in the corner. That was the big, turning point in the fourth quarter, in my opinion. Also, another huge play at the end of the fourth quarter. Karl Anthony Towns subbed back in because Rudy Gobert fouled out. They were pretty much all their bigs had foul trouble. Rudy had 5 fouls. Jokic went at him, fouled Rudy out of the game. So Cat had to come in, and a few plays into Cat being in the game, KCP didn't box him out, and Cat came flying in for a putback dunk, which essentially was the dagger in this game. And as far as the Nuggets go, Jokic and Jamal Murray combined for 69 points. The rest of the team, And how many players was it? Seven other players played in this game other than Jokic and Murray, and they combined for 21 points. MPJ had 7, Aaron Gordon had 4, KCP had 5, and Christian Brown had 5. That's just not enough. When you got your 2 stars going off for a combined 69, you need at least one role player to step up. I would say probably 2. But like MPJ shooting 3 for 12, KCP shooting 2 for 7, Aaron Gordon only had 4 points. Like, it's just not enough. Also, Jamal Murray was kind of ghost in the second half. I believe he had like 29 points at halftime or somewhere around that number. He finished the game with 35, still a really good game for him, but majority of his scoring came in the first half when the Nuggets were blowing out the Timberwolves. Last thing I want to say is I gotta give crazy props to the Minnesota Timberwolves coaching staff and just Chris Finch in general. He obviously has the broken leg after Conley ran into him in the first round and broke his leg, but the adjustments that he made at halftime defensively were absolutely huge. They shut down the Nuggets. The Nuggets scored 14 points in the third quarter and only 23 in the fourth. Now let's talk about this Knicks-Pacers game 7 because it was a crazy Sunday. We had 2 game 7s. I mean, that does not happen often. It just doesn't. It's very rare that we even get one. Actually, it's not rare we get 1 game 7 in a round, but usually it's only like 1. We had 2 game 7s and they were on the same day. This game came down to a lot of things. Of course, you have the injuries, but the Pacers came out strong. Like, they came out in Madison Square Garden. The crowd was going crazy and they put up a 39 bomb on the Knicks, 39-27 in the first quarter. And one of the biggest contributors to the Pacers going crazy early in this game and just honestly dominating the whole game is, of course, Tyrese Haliburton, who went off. He had 6 threes. Haliburton's the type of player, I've been saying this, he's like kind of inconsistent. He's inconsistent, but when he's on, it's scary. Like, when Haliburton starts to get confident and he starts to get aggressive, which is what the Pacers needed if they were going to win this game, and if they're going to have a chance against the Celtics, which we'll talk more about in a second, he's got to stay aggressive. That is a huge key, because when he's passive and just, racking up, 12, 14 assists, but he only has 6 points, that's not really a recipe for them winning. But when he's hitting threes early and he gets confident and just keeps spraying threes, the Pacers are usually more successful. And that's exactly what happened early in this game. There's a lot of great, really solid role players on this Pacers team. There just is. One guy that I really want to talk about is Andrew Nembhard. He was 8 for 10 with 20 points. He's just been so solid for the Pacers on this playoff run. And let's be honest, if we really think about it, no one's really talking about this. Nembhard is the guy that really saved them, because they were about to be down 3-0. The Knicks had game 3 in the palm of their hands. The Knicks were up 2-0 to start the series. Then they went into Indiana and were about to win game 3, and Nembhard hit a crazy, heave last second shot to essentially, win the Pacers the game and make it a 2-1 series, still in favor of the Knicks. But the Pacers eventually coming back and winning in game 7. Nembhard has been crucial for this team, although he's not putting up, 30 bombs every game or going too crazy defensively. He's always finding a way to impact winning. And those are absolutely the players that you need on your team. It's the people that aren't necessarily going to get all of the spotlight. You know what I'm saying? They're not going to get all the shine, but they're just doing their role to the best of their ability. And that's what Andrew Nembhard did. And another guy on the Pacers that has been doing this all playoffs, you guys already probably know who I'm going to say, TJ McConnell. 12 points, 7 assists, and he plays great defense, especially for his build. Like, let me try and see what his height and weight is like exactly. He is 6'1", 190 pounds, and he is out there giving 110% effort, just trying his best, playing great defense. He's the type of guy that's diving on the ground for loose balls. These are the type of guys that you need on your NBA roster if you want to go on deep playoff runs. Another guy that I really love to watch, Aaron Naismith. He's another one. He had 19 points, pretty much a perfect game for him. 8 for 8 from the field, 2 for 2 from 3. He also had a steal. He plays really good defense, and he just gives it his all. You need these guys in your team. Of course, the Pacers also have Pascal Siakam, who's just been, an anchor for this team. He's been very consistent, pretty much giving you 20 points every single game, and Miles Turner, of course. But as far as the Knicks go, it's pretty much just comes down to injuries. Like, OG Anunoby was trying to play through his hamstring injury. He hit 2 crazy shots, by the way, in the first quarter, but then he had to leave because he could barely walk. But he had 2 crazy shots to kind of keep the Knicks in the game in the first quarter before it got absolutely out of hand. And of course, Brunson ended up leaving this game with a fractured hand, but to be honest, the game was kind of out of reach at that point. Maybe they could have pulled off a crazy fourth quarter comeback, but another injury to Brunson with the fractured hand. And then Josh Hart was in there playing through an abdominal strain that I didn't even think he was going to be able to play through. I thought he'd start the game and then have to come out, because in game 6, it did not look good at all. And then of course you have Mitchell Robinson and Bojan Bogdanovic, who have already been out for the season, so they weren't in this game. Hartenstein played 30 minutes and had 0 points. I know he's not really a scorer, but that's not good at all. And there was pretty much 2 Knicks that were really playing good, and it seemed like wanted it badly, and that was Dante DiVincenzo, who had 39 points, 11 for 21, and my boy Alec Burks, 26 points, 8 for 13. It's good to see him get some shine here, because I mean, let's be honest, he's been looking really good for the Knicks in this series when he has gotten minutes, and this could be good for his future. You know what I'm saying? Maybe another team picks him up and wants to give him minutes, maybe like a playoff team. I don't know. It's always cool to see guys on the back end of their career kind of have a little revival like Alec Burks is having right now. He is a free agent going into next year, which is something to keep in mind, but I'm not saying he's going to be some huge free agent target for like contenders, because he's not. At this point in time, the Celtics have already been moved on for like 5 or 6 days. They've kind of just been waiting to see who they're going to play, which of course is going to be the Pacers. In game 5, of course, the Celtics won 4-1. The Cavs were without Jarrett Allen, Karis LeVert, and Donovan Mitchell. So kind of an easy series win there for the Celtics. The only thing to really note for the Celtics moving forward is that Kristaps Porzingis is still injured and is going to miss game 1 and probably game 2. And a lot of people think it's just going to be game 1 and 2. I'm a believer in injuries like this can kind of linger, and this is not good at all. It just isn't. A lot of Celtics fans are confident in their ability to take care of business, whether they did play the Knicks or now we know they're playing the Pacers. But I don't know. Kristaps Porzingis is a big piece, because if they have him healthy and they have this full team fully healthy, I don't really see how they lose. Porzingis being that huge rim protector and also his just ability to stretch the floor, losing that is huge for this Celtics team. And again, I also think he could be out longer than just 1 to 2 games. Mavs beat the Thunder 4-2 in a series that I thought was going to go 7 games, but the Mavs ended up winning by 1 in game 6. And this was a series that, in my opinion, Luka didn't fully play like Luka. A lot of people have been saying he's kind of been fighting through an injury. He also had a sickness, I think, in round 1. In the regular season, Luka averaged like 34 points per game, 9 rebounds per game, and 9 assists per game. Through the playoffs, he has not really put up those numbers at all. I think he's only put up over 34 like once or twice. And so it's impressive that the Mavs are in the Western Conference Finals and their star player Luka hasn't even really been playing like himself. But who's been absolutely like magical, I feel like is the word, is Kyrie Irving. He keeps finding a way to impact winning even when he's not scoring. There's been games where he like has like 6 points or like 7 points, but he has like 10 assists. He's finding a way to impact winning. Also, something interesting is he just scores in the second half and the fourth quarter, especially. Like, he's pretty much irrelevant in the first half. I don't know what's good with that, but in the fourth quarter, Kyrie is one of the most clutch players in the NBA, and he just continues to get it done at the end of games. Another guy that's been absolutely huge for this Mavericks team is PJ Washington. Again, that was an absolutely huge addition to the Mavs at the trade deadline. Okay, so now I'm gonna make some predictions moving forward. We are at the conference finals, and of course we have the Boston Celtics taking on the Indiana Pacers. And coming into game 1, the Celtics are 10-point favorites. Keep in mind, they don't have Kristaps Porzingis, and they are still 10-point favorites over the Indiana Pacers. I think it's going to be huge to see if the Pacers can steal a game in Boston, either game 1 or game 2. That will be huge for the Pacers if they want to win this series, especially with no Kristaps Porzingis. Matter of fact, I'm changing my opinion. They have to win either game 1 or 2 if they're going to win this series, especially because Porzingis is out. You got to win one of those if you're going to win the series. I think this is a series that Siakam's going to have a great series, especially without that paint presence, that paint protector in Kristaps Porzingis. Siakam's pretty much just going to have a good series against whoever, but with the Celtics not having the rim protector, I think Siakam's gonna have just an even better series. And if the Pacers want to win this series, Haliburton has to get aggressive. He has to be in that groove that he was in game 7, be confident, shoot a lot of threes. I'm not saying bad threes, but he has to just shoot when he's open. He can't keep passing and be passive like we've seen him be in this playoffs and of course in the regular season. And what I'm gonna say about the Celtics, they have to show up, because let's keep it a buck. I know there's a lot of Celtics fans watching this video. There's a lot of Celtics fans, period, in the world, but they are chokers. Recently, they have been chokers. They have now been in the conference finals in 6 of the last 8 years. That's crazy. They've won finals appearance, by the way. So we're not going to count this year because it hasn't happened. So let's say 5 of 7. 5 of the last 7 years, they've been here with 1 finals appearance, a loss, by the way, to the Warriors. So 4 losses in the conference finals, 1 win. They got to get it done. They got to stop choking. They have an easy path right now against the Pacers. It could have been the Bucks, healthy Bucks. It could have been the Knicks, healthy Knicks team. You got the Pacers. You got to get it done. I'll be going with the Celtics over the Pacers with a 4-3 series win. I'm probably wrong in this because it should be more like a 4-2 or a 4-1 series win. I don't think it's going to be a sweep because I'm pretty high on this Pacers team. They are a good team. With the addition of Pascal Siakam to this roster, they are just a really sound team. Haliburton, Siakam, Turner. You got the great role players, TJ McConnell, Naismith, Andrew Nembhard. Of course, you got Obi Toppin. I think the Pacers are going to win some games in the series. I'm going to give them 7. I think there's a world where the Pacers could win this series. I know that's crazy, but I just figure I got to say it in this video in case it does happen. But should be a pretty easy round here for the #1 team in the league, the Boston Celtics. But the thing to watch in this series for me is Porzingis' health. Again, he's out the first 1 to 2 games. If he's out the whole series, things are going to get interesting. Of course, out west, we have the Dallas Mavericks taking on the Minnesota Timberwolves. And in this series, I think we are going to get the real Luka Doncic finally. I think he's going to show up. He's due to show up and start having, 40-point games, start playing like himself. And same with Anthony Edwards. He had like 2 to 3 really good games in the last series against the Nuggets. But I think we are going to have an electric series, an absolute masterclass between Luka versus Anthony Edwards in this series. And I mean, it's kind of like a battle for the future, a battle for the face of the league. This is a huge series against 2 of the league's youngest bright stars. I'm not gonna lie, this is a series that could go either way. I think if you were to ask anybody, and I'm gonna even ask you guys can leave a comment on your predictions on these series. I think most people would say this is gonna go 7 games. It's a series that could really go either way. And I think for the Timberwolves, it all starts, of course, with their defense. If they are not playing good defense, they don't stand a chance, because the T-Wolves, with their defense and them getting stops, that's kind of their best offense. When they're not playing good defense, they don't score either. Like, it's like they just get flooded, they just get destroyed, because when they're getting stops, they can run out in transition, get buckets that way. If they're not going to play good defense, they're screwed. But I don't think we expect them to play no defense. They're probably going to play some pretty good defense. They're #1 defense in the league. In this series, my prediction is I'm going to pick the Mavs over the Timberwolves in game 7, 4-3. So 2 game 7s, although the Celtics series probably won't go 7, but let's just make it interesting. But we're going to go Mavs over T-Wolves in game 7. And the reason that I'm picking the Mavs is because of Kyrie Irving. In the playoffs, you need closers. They have Luka as well, who's a pretty good closer. Kyrie Irving is absolutely magical in the 4th quarter. He just gets it done. When the pressure is the highest, Kyrie Irving continues to come through, and literally that's why I'm picking them. I do want to say, according to the bettors though, the Timberwolves are favored to win this series, but I'm going against the money, and I'm going to be going Mavs over T-Wolves in game 7.